guys, it's Casera, and today I'm going to be talking about my 5-star predictions for the summer. The second video in a mini series that I'm doing. Yesterday I did my wrap up for my spring 5-star predictions, where I talked about the books that I read in spring that I gave 5 stars to and the ones that I predicted and whether they actually were 5-star books or not. And in this video we're going to be predicting new 5-star books for the books that I'm planning to read this summer. But before we get into all of the new books that I'm going to be predicting, there are a couple of books from my last 5-star predictions that I didn't get to that I still think are going to be 5-star predictions when I do finally get to reading to them, and hopefully I can get to reading them this summer. So I've already talked quite a bit about those books in the previous videos. If you haven't seen those videos, I will link up in the cards the one from yesterday. I'll just quickly list the 2 books that I previously thought would be 5-star predictions and I still think will be 5-star predictions. The first one is Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson. This is the 3rd book in the Blessed Book of the Fallen series. And the other one is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch, which is the 2nd book in the Gentleman Bastard series. Now that I've mentioned both of those books, which are part of series that I absolutely love so far, and definitely think I could end up rating those 5 stars, it's time to talk about all the other books that I'm planning to read this summer that I'm hoping will be 5-star books. So we're going to start out with the easiest book on this list, and that's Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the 3rd book in the Stormlight Archives, which I've read the first 2 books, and I've given both of them 5 stars. So obviously I think this series in general is just a 5-star series for me, and it's going to be one of my favorite series of all time. And because of that, I'm pretty sure the 3rd book in the series is going to be a 5-star book for me as well. So far with this series, I love the characters, I really love the world building, and I think especially in the last book, I started to see kind of how the plot is going to look in the macro level for this book. Like, I think there are such great things going on in this series that I can't possibly see how this book can't be 5 stars for me. Like, I think it would legitimately have to be like a boring book, or bad things would have to happen in this book for me to not rate it 5 stars, because so far the series like can't do any wrong, and I absolutely love it. And I can't wait for the 4th book in this series to come out, because it's coming out later this year as well. So I'm definitely planning on getting to Oathbringer very soon, and hopefully I'll end up loving it as much as the other books in the series, and that it'll end up being a 5-star book for me. This next one is also a pretty easy pick for me, because it's a high fantasy book by an author that I've previously read, and that's An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. So this is the 2nd book in the Lincanis trilogy. I read the 1st book earlier this year. It was part of my fantasy book series challenge, and I absolutely loved it. And while I didn't think The Shadow of What Was Lost, which was the 1st book in the series, was a 5-star book, there were a lot of things in that book that I absolutely loved, including the characters, some of the tropes that are used in this book, and just the atmosphere of this book in general. It gave me that just classic high fantasy atmosphere that I'm always looking for in new books that I'm reading. And because of that, I really think this series has potential of having 5-star books for me. So I'm really hoping that the 2nd book in the series, An Echo of Things to Come, will be one of those books that ends up being a 5-star book for me. I don't know what's going to happen in this book, obviously, but with as much as I loved the 1st book, I really feel like this one has the potential of being a 5-star book for me. And this is also on my June TBR, so I plan on getting to it very, very soon, and hopefully I'll end up loving it. So this next one is also one that I think was a pretty easy pick, and that's Blood Song by Anthony Ryan. So the reason why I think this one's an easy pick is because I've actually already started this book. I'm about a quarter of the way into this book, and Anthony Ryan is one of those authors that I've only read 1 book and this quarter of the book so far by Anthony Ryan, but every time I pick up one of these books, I just automatically think like, wow, this writing is so good. I absolutely love Anthony Ryan's writing style, and this is a book that has some classic fantasy tropes, but I've heard that it's a little bit grittier than you would expect. This is following the character of Valen Alsorna as a young child to become part of the 6th Order, which is a cast of warriors basically, but they have boys from a very young age train and grow up to this life, and so far I'm really, really enjoying it. At the very beginning, we get to meet Valen like in the future, where he is actually a prisoner going to this island, and he is telling his story to a chronicler. So it's like a story within a story as well, which I usually like those as well, especially since you get like things from the future as well as the past, which I always really love when it's not like a chronological timeline. So I love that aspect of it. I love the writing, and so far I really love the world building and the characters. Hopefully I'll end up liking the rest of this book as much as I have the first 25%, and hopefully it'll end up being a 5-star book for me. Also, I've heard some really great things about this book. This book tends to have really great reviews, so I'm hoping that I'll like this as much as everyone else seems to as well. The next book on this list is actually by an author that I've never read before, and that's Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay. I've been reading to read this book for years now, like at least a decade, and just haven't gotten around to it. But I've heard so many great things about Guy Gavriel Kay as an author. Specifically, he has some beautiful writing, and I've heard this book in particular is his masterpiece, and because of that I've been meaning to read it for the longest while. I don't know that much about this book other than the fact that everyone who reads it seems to love it. It's also deeply political with a low fantasy setting, and it's just the type of book that I feel like I could absolutely love and could potentially be one of my favorite books of all time. So I'm really excited to get this one, and hopefully I'll end up liking this as much as everyone else seems to. And kind of along those same lines, but on the sci-fi end of the spectrum, we have The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin. So Ursula Le Guin is an author that I've been meaning to read forever, like at least a decade also. And this book seems to be one of the books that everyone loves by her. Now, sci-fi is not always my thing, but I feel like this one could potentially be one that I really love. Not only is Ursula Le Guin known for her beautiful writing, but she's also known for some very interesting concepts. This book in particular is about a human ambassador who has to go to this winter planet in which the inhabitants are gender fluid. There aren't very many prejudices. I feel like there's a lot of theme work in here as well that I think could potentially make this an absolute masterpiece, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna end up loving this because everyone else seems to love this as well, and I'm really excited to get to this. And I think that it could be a 5-star read for me, and even potentially one of my favorite sci-fi novels. And the last book on this list is also a sci-fi novel, and that's 11/22/63 by Stephen King. So first of all, this book is by Stephen King, which is an author that is slowly becoming one of my favorites because I love many books that I've read by him. Not all of the books that I read by him. There are some books that I don't like that much. He's kind of a hit or miss author with me, but I feel like I tend to like his bigger books, and this one is kind of about time travel / alternate reality, which are tropes that I absolutely love, and I'm really excited to see Stephen King take on these tropes because he is an author that writes very realistically, so I feel like he would do a great job with this, and I've heard really great things about this book as well. So I'm hoping that this book is as realistic and interesting as I think it could be, because this is about a character who tries to go back into the past and prevent the assassination of JFK, which I feel like is a very pivotal event that could change history in many different ways and not necessarily for the better. So I think this could be a really interesting book, and I'm hoping that I'll end up loving it. And I can definitely see this being a 5-star book for me this summer, so I'm really excited to get to it. So if you guys have read these books, let me know down in the comments because I would love to hear your thoughts on them, because they're all books that I'm really excited to get to. Also, let me know in the comments some of the books that you plan on reading this summer that you think will be 5-star predictions. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.